This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
So anyway, Chapter 38.
Chapter 38.
Chapter 38. Rescue. And our symbol is the Flame of Tarvalon.
We're back in Perrin's point of view.
Yeah.
And he's in the Whitecloak camp. This is still during the day.
I think that's right. I'll read this first paragraph. Perrin shifted as best he could with his wrist bound behind him, and finally gave up with a sigh. Every rock he avoided brought him two more. Awkwardly, he tried to work his cloak back over him. The night was cold, and the ground seemed to draw all the heat out of him, as it had every night since the Whitecloaks took them. The children did not think prisoners needed blankets or shelter, especially not dangerous dark friends. Egwene lay huddled against his back for warmth, sleeping the deep sleep of exhaustion. So we see Perrin getting the warmth sucked out of him by the cold ground, and Egwene taking advantage of this huge dude.
Hey man, body warmth is important when you're cold and freezing out in the wilderness. So.
Yeah. And when you're basically a huge 200 some odd pound, really muscular athletic guy, you produce a lot of heat.
Yeah. When the alternative is a bunch of Whitecloaks.
They are not being treated particularly well as prisoners.
Yeah, well, they've already told Perrin that he's going to get sent to the questioners, so this is comparatively nice treatment.
Yeah. I mean, from what we've been told before, like, the children sometimes will just torture people outright rather than keeping them prisoner until they can be brought off.
Do you want to say hello, Jessica? You're kind of part of the podcast.
Yeah. Jessica, say hello.
Hi.
Hey!
So Jessica's home.
She's the one other voice you typically get to hear in each of the podcasts. Timber, Jessica.
Mostly Timber. Okay, well, here's a note from me. I just found it really, really odd that the children are thinking of Egwene and Perrin as dark friends. And it's like, where are they getting this from?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's kind of what they do, though, you know?
I think anyone who kills two Whitecloaks is going to be automatically assumed to be a dark friend.
I guess so.
You know, that's anyone, because they are on the side of light, anyone who works against them, and certainly anyone who kills them. I mean, just by, like, standing up to them and laughing at them, they call you a dark friend.
True.
If you stand up to them and stick an axe in one of their heads, they're definitely calling you a dark friend. But, you know, the other thing that might really convince them that these are dark friends is Perrin's eyes are changing. And I assume that's what you were trying to allude to.
It is kind of a magical thing, and any sort of magical looking anything, the Children of the Light just immediately associate with the Dark One, which is... Man, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You want to fight the dark? Like, go to the Blight. There's this war that's constantly going on. It's so ridiculous that they think that we've had this conversation before where they like see their purpose as rooting out dark friends amongst humans who are walking in the light, but there's just millions of Trollocs waiting there to boil out of the Blight. Maybe you could spend some of that effort and cruelty on creatures that will actually kill you and eat you.
That assumes the Whitecloaks' agenda has anything to do with actually fighting the dark.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, too, because I'm not sure their agenda actually... in a lot of ways, they actually assist the Dark One.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I consider them the same vein...
Completely unknowingly, but yeah.
Yeah, they're in the same vein as the Shadar Logoth evil.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You want to fight the evil so much that you yourself become what you were struggling to fight.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And that's what Shadar Logoth became, and I think that's the template that the Whitecloaks are currently following.
Right.
Which is why they're such a great receptacle for Fane later when he finds them and basically does his thing with Pedron Nile.
So Perrin and Egwene are sleeping on the ground because they're tied to the backs of horses, and they're walking along behind a column of horses that are of the children's column that's heading towards Camelin.
So the children are, they're having some trouble because a lot of the horses were killed by the
Right.
wolves. And so they're...
So they don't have remounts so that they can't move very quickly because each Child of the Light has maybe 1 to 1.5 horses, where if you're gonna remount soldiers all the way to get somewhere, they need like 3 or 4 horses to run that whole way. I wish I could remember the number. How many dead horses did the wolves and Elias kill? It was like 40 or something.
Yeah, 40 or 80, something like that.
30 horses, but
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but we saw in the last chapter, Lan estimates that there are about 200 children in this camp. So, even 40 horses is a significant number when you consider remounts.
It's a good percentage.
Yeah.
Well, so they have 5 lines.
Yeah, it says 5 picket lines. I don't think we can see how many horses are on each one.
I want to say 20. So you have 100 horses left.
Fair enough.
And that if they lost 40 or 80, they've lost, a third to half of their horses.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is
I'll buy
actually
that.
kind of incredible. The wolves did a number on those horses.
I believe that Byar said that many of the horses had to be later executed by children because they were just hamstrung.
Right.
The horses were just basically laming them. Once a horse's leg is injured like that, it's useless.
It won't recover.
It can live, but it won't ever really be able to do its job. Heavy lifting,
We still don't. Modern horses, we don't tend to heal their legs. It's one of the things that modern medicine hasn't been able to accomplish.
I wish there's something. I wish I understood more about that. But yeah, you're right. I've definitely heard that before. That if a horse breaks its leg, it's hard to. Or
Well, I
it
think the
can't be.
problem is, like, the horse doesn't realize that it needs to rest and heal, so it'll try to get up and run. And if it tries to get up and run on a broken leg, well, it's not going to get far.
Yeah.
I also thought that horses can't really lay down for an extended period of time just because of the way they're so heavy that
They sleep standing up.
Yeah.
That could be too, yeah.
And so that you have this problem where the horse can't really stand on the leg or else he'll re-break it, and he can't really lay down or else his organs will collapse. And so you have this, they just can't recover.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's certainly no way to recover that in the wilderness on the run.
No. Not while moving quickly.
No.
Next thing I have is where Byar comes over to Perrin and Egwene and offers them the sharp rock. This is a scene I sort of wanted to talk about. I don't really understand what's going on here. He wakes them up and he says, "You're slowing us down, dark friend, you and your wolves. The Council of the Anointed has heard reports of such things, and they want to know more. So you must be taken to Amador." And then he goes on later to say, "The Lord Captain is caught in the cleft of a dilemma," Byar said finally. "Because of the wolves, he must take you to the council, but he must reach Camelin too. We have no spare horses to carry you, but if we continue to let you walk, we will not reach Camelin by the appointed time. The Lord Captain sees his duties with a single-minded vision, and he intends to see you before the council. Perrin says, 'I don't understand,' and Byar says, 'There's nothing to understand. Nothing but idle speculation. If you escaped, we would not have time to track you down. We don't have an hour to spare if we are to reach Camelin in time.'" And then he throws a sharp rock on the ground and sort of walks off, more or less.
I think Perrin's later assessment is correct.
Is the point that they should try to escape so that he can just kill them and they can be done with it and move on
That's
to
what I
Camelin?
think.
That's what Perrin thinks.
Byar is clearly a psycho.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's saying, you know what, here, you guys can just cut yourself free, whatever. If you try to run, I'm just going to kill you. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just going to do it.
Well, he wants them to try and run so he can just get rid of an inconvenience.
When he says it, Byar's making it look like he's giving them a chance to escape because it's inconvenient to carry them around as prisoners. It's his way of encouraging them to try so that he can kill them.
The best lies are full of truth.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth in the fact that he wants them gone and they are an inconvenience, but he wants them dead.
Yeah.
He doesn't want them to escape. That's one of these situations where Perrin's slow thought really does figure out the truth that's going on here.
Perrin thinks about it a moment And at the kind of end of his thought process here, I have the Lord Captain's dilemma would be solved all right, and Byar would have them dead the way he wanted them. And then we see the segues right in. The gaunt man picked up his helmet from beside the lantern and started to stand. Wait, Perrin said hoarsely. His thoughts tumbled over and over as he searched in vain for some way out. Wait, I want to talk. And then Dapple kind of interjects in his mind, help comes. Oh, there is a bunch more in there, but I'm kind of skipping over them.
I'm reading this again. It's like, yeah, Byar has this like whole American Psycho thing going on. It's like, it's almost like a game that he's playing with them.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. It's really fucked up.
It's really, really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty damaged.
It's like a horror movie.
He's not a questioner, though, is he?
No, I don't think so.
He does have some kind of rank, but it's not. The questioner is like separate. It's not in the same ranking system.
Right. But he acts a lot like one.
And just the way he's described too, like that skeletal face that he has. And
yeah, very creepy. Bornhold says in one of the last chapters, he says something like the zeal of the questioners will make Byar's. I forget what it was, but he makes an analogy where like you think Byar has zeal, like wait till you meet the questioners.
Oh, okay.
I forget the exact analogy he uses, but he was like, it'll make it look like a candle in the light of the sun or something. Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, Byar is saying, like, why should dark friends sleep? When Byar said dispassionately, when decent men must stay awake to guard them. And of course, Egwene comes back with, for the 100th time, we aren't dark friends. And, like, in her naivete, she's just, like, not understanding what's going on.
The Whitecloaks have no notion of innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that they're just guilty until proven guilty, and there's and you're proven guilty through torture.
They'll torture you until you're guilty. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think he even says that, like, how do you convince someone you're not a dark friend when they're already preconceived the notion that you're a dark friend? There's no argument that you can come up with that's going to dissuade them from their preconceived notions.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that he got kind of caught up with, his whole spiel about how, we need to take you to the questioners, and yet he's, giving them this rock to free themselves, to try to escape so he can kill them. It's like, I don't know, there's some kind of very strange game that he's playing.
I mean, I think it's because he's operating. This isn't an order that he's been given. He's trying to solve his boss's problem by losing the dark, or by the dark friends cleverly escaping, and he gets to sweep in heroically and stop them. But it was too bad that we couldn't get the information out of them. But at least there are two less dark friends, and that's how it will look. I don't think there are any other conspirators. I think it's just Byar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's acting on his own initiative here, which is a bit odd for him.
But I think he sees a real problem where they won't be able to get to Caemlyn on time, whatever that is. I don't know why they need to get to Caemlyn at a specific time, unless it has something to do with Rand's arrival.
That's actually a good question. I do not know what he is trying to get to Caemlyn for.
I believe, I can't be totally sure, but I believe that that's something that Bornhold is saying, and Byar is repeating, that they're supposed to reach Caemlyn at a certain time.
But why?
Yeah, but why?
Oh yeah, it isn't said. I can only speculate.
I don't even have any speculation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have we established that neither Bornhold or Byar are dark friends, right?
I don't think so.
Byar, there's some suspicion, but I don't think he is. I honestly don't think he is. I think later he gets like hit with some compulsion is possible, but I don't think he's a dark friend.
If there were dark friends amongst the children here, we could speculate that, or we could assume that Ishmael or Myrddraal is telling them that they have to get to Caemlyn to hunt down Rand and Mat. Because for some reason, everybody's heading to Caemlyn right now.
Well, most people are Logain.
Logain, yeah.
Well, but I mean, do you think that I don't think the Children of the Light are going to Camelin to look at the dragon, the false dragon?
No.
No. I honestly, yeah, I don't know what Bornhald's orders are here.
Moiraine and Lan are going to Camelin eventually to find the boys.
Yeah, and I mean, if he does have orders, like, where are they coming from and why?
I mean, I assume they're coming from Pedron Nile at this point. He's still in control of the Whitecloaks. He's making his plan. Because his plan at this point is to take over, like, Amadicia.
Yeah.
And I don't know how putting soldiers in Camelin is going to help him with that.
Don't know.
Yeah. It's amazing how little I care about the Whitecloaks and what they're actually thinking.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, you know, they're Whitecloaks. Whatever they
Nothing
do
they
pretty
do makes
much
sense.
does not make any sense. So, yeah.
But I mean, I do think that their movements do make sense because of the orders they're given, but there's some issues with Pedron Nile being influenced by Thane and the fact that he dies and then you've got Valda takes over.
Oh man, have you ever thought about the parallel? Like you just made the sort of analogy of the children and like the people of Shadar Logoth.
Mm-hmm.
And Mashadar is there both times. I'm just saying.
Well, what's
Fane eventually has
absolutely.
influence. Yeah, just
Yeah.
a funny parallel I just noticed.
He himself is a little weak right in the beginning, but I think he finds a good home in the Whitecloaks, a sort of kindred spirit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kind of the same thing happened
Kind of
twice.
batshit crazy,
Almost.
yeah, kindred spirit, yeah.
Definitely.
A little bit of something there.
Yeah.
Here's something I never noticed before. An image came back, Elias, lying on a bed of evergreen branches beside a small fire in a cave, tending a wound in his side. He must have gotten wounded during that fight with the Whitecloaks, and
Yeah.
that's why he hasn't been able to help them. I had never noticed that before. That's a new one for me.
But Dapple and at least one other wolf, I think, are still
Well, I mean,
out
what's he
there.
gonna do anyway? I mean, he's one guy.
Hey, we see Lan does quite a bit. He's just one guy.
Oh yeah, I have a
Well,
huge part that I
yeah.
kind of want to read later, where he's goes totally Batman and through, but I think you guys had some stuff before Dapple gets Perrin's
Yeah.
attention. I jumped right to that, but
I think the two wolves are
Yeah.
Dapple and Wind.
is it?
Because it's not Burn, he's gone.
Yeah.
Hopper's dead.
Yeah,
Those are the four wolves we know about.
so it's probably Dapple and Wind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Dapple is actually specifically mentioned.
Mm-hmm. But I think
Yeah.
the other one would be Wind. I can't imagine it would make sense to be Wind.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Dapple tells Perrin that help is coming, and Perrin sort of wolf language demands to know if Elias is okay, and Dapple sends him that image that you were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And Byar is still there. He says, Byar paused, risen only to a crouch, looking at him. Some thought has come to you, Perrin of the Two Rivers, and I would know what it is. This is where the scene turns into badassery pretty quickly. Just stop me if you want me to stop reading. Byar watched his changes of expression. I skipped a little. And for the first time, the Whitecloak's eyes went to the rock that he had tossed to the ground. He was reconsidering, Perrin realized. If he changed his mind about the rock, would he dare risk leaving them alive to talk? Ropes could be frayed after the people wearing them were dead, even if it made for risk of discovery. He looked into Byar's eyes. I'll skip a little. They're having a bit of an exchange. Byar opened his mouth, and as Perrin waited for a sentence to be pronounced, things began to happen too fast for thought. Suddenly, one of the guards vanished. 1 minute, there was two dim shapes. The next, the night swallowed one of them. The second guard turned, the beginning of a cry on his lips, but before the first syllable was uttered, there was a solid chunk, and he toppled over like a felled tree. Byar spun, swift as a striking viper, the axe whirling in his hand so fast that it hummed. Perrin's eyes bulged as the night seemed to flow into the lantern light. His mouth opened to yell, but his throat locked tight with fear. For an instant, he even forgot that Byar wanted to kill them. The Whitecloak was another human being, and the night had come alive to take them all.
Oh man, the night coming alive. That's just such a great description.
It's so
of
good.
Lan. Yeah.
And I just have the next paragraph. I'm gonna go
I
for
think
it.
it's a fight between Lan and Byar, and Lan kicks his ass.
Yeah. Oh, and then it's
Well, yeah, the very next sentence says, "Then the darkness invading the light became Lan."
yeah. Cloaks swirling through shades of gray and black as he moved. The axe in Byar's hands lashed out like lightning, and Lan seemed to lean casually aside, letting the blade pass so close he must have felt the wind of it. Byar's eyes widened as the force of his blow carried him off balance, and the warder struck with both hands and feet in rapid succession. So he's not using a sword here, I noted. As the warder struck with hands and feet in rapid succession, so quick that Perrin was not sure what he had just seen. What he was sure of was Byar collapsing like a puppet.
Byar made the mistake of bringing an axe to a Lan fight.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I laughed really hard at that.
So I was holding on to that one for a little while.
Yeah, I don't think Lan's sword is even drawn in this scene.
No, he takes down a couple of Whitecloaks without even drawing his sword.
Yeah.
He just knocks them out.
Yeah.
I think he kills one or two, doesn't he?
No, I think he did. I think he killed.
Yeah, he definitely kills some of them. Because Perrin's kind of disappointed that Byar's not dead.
In the sudden return to darkness, Perrin stared blindly. Lan seemed to have vanished again. Is it really? Egwene gave a stifled sob. We thought you were dead. We thought you were all dead. Not yet. The warder's deep whisper was tinged with amusement. Oh, he's so Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. And I love that, like, all the characters are starting to get back together now at this point.
Yeah. They're looking at, I think it's Egwene talking, and she's looking at Byar, and she says, like, is he? No. Lan's voice answered quietly from the darkness. I do not kill unless I mean to, but he won't bother anyone for a while.
Okay, so he didn't kill any of them.
Stop asking questions and get a pair of their cloaks. We don't have much time.
So they're pulling a stormtrooper, putting on the...
This was like zero.
That's
Dark
relevant.
Material
I just marathoned
kind of thing
Star
going
Wars
on.
recently.
Yeah.
A Perrin's a little short for a stormtrooper.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Or a Whitecloak.
That's a Princess Leia line.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure all our listeners know that it's a Princess Leia line.
Okay, I wasn't well.
I honestly don't think anyone... Yeah.
In case I needed to spell it out for any non-nerds, we're here for you.
There's no non-nerds listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Seriously, like... let's just have a moment here.
We'll have a nerd moment.
It's just us nerds.
If you're listening to this podcast, you love a 14-book series that you have dedicated more of your life to reading than most people have spent reading in their entire lives.
That's almost definitely true.
That's kind of sad to think of, actually, but it is probably true.
Just the number of words that you have sat down and read if you've gone from this from 1 to 14.
I have friends, I'll send them a long news article. They won't even read that.
Yeah.
Man, it's 2 pages. Come on. It's interesting.
If it's not a tweet, it's not worth it.
It's 3 feet of pages.
Oh, yeah. It's 3 feet of pages neatly stacked.
Oh, now we should speculate about how much the series actually weighs.
I saw a funny, I don't know, not a meme, but an infographic once where someone did a bunch of math when they how many words, how many, if you line them all up. I
think that's the number 1 post on the Wheel of Time subreddit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I think we were probably thinking of the same thing.
Yes.
And it's a guy standing next to all the books. Yeah.
What are we doing? We're on our way out, right?
Well, Lan just came in and, did his thing.
Batman.
Yep.
He Batman the Whitecloaks.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're on their way out. They've got sort of they've taken the Whitecloaks off of the unconscious Whitecloaks. That's such a weird way of saying it, but
yeah, the Whitecloaks off the unconscious Whitecloaks. Yeah,
but it's
the Whitecloaks wear white cloaks.
That's true. It's a two words to one word. The white space cloaks were taken from the Whitecloaks. No space.
Yeah.
I have an interesting thing right there where Perrin has the thought, was it Byar's cloak he had ended up with? He almost thought he could smell the Gaunt Man on it. And I just wondered if that's not a foreshadowing, but I mean, we know his abilities are developing here. Is it Byar's cloak? Does he smell him?
Yes and yes.
I thought so. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
When I read that, yeah.
That's definitely his sense of smell getting amplified.
Yeah, and he like, I think I interpreted this as Perrin just not even believing it yet. Like he doesn't think that that could be reality, that he would know.
Of course it is.
His mind is interpreting new sensations, and he's trying to like figure out what they mean.
Yeah, it almost appears more like emotions at first, you know.
So I had a thought. Perrin is basically an empath.
Basically.
But instead of feeling other people's emotions, he smells them.
Uh-huh.
Huh. Like that.
Just a thought I had while I was reading, and I was thinking about how to think about Perrin going forward. But basically, once he starts to smell other people's emotions, he really becomes empathic, and that affects him in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Well, it's like people and animals give off like pheromones and stuff and you know, some animals can judge what you're feeling by what pheromones you're giving off. So
Sure.
there could be that kind of thing going on.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of when Perrin's smelling the people around him and reading their emotions.
I never really thought of Perrin's powers in that light, but I like looking at it that way. That's a good way to sort of sum a lot of what he's doing throughout the series.
But I like that he can only tell what the emotions are. He can't do any, he doesn't understand the thoughts that are associated with those emotions. And I think that a lot of our frustration with Perrin comes from, we understand the thoughts that are going on in other characters' heads because we get a bit of their POV.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And so he interprets their emotions incorrectly. And when I say they, I mean Fael.
Well, sometimes it is others, but...
And this is sort of the first hint of that, where we get a bit of a smell of Byar. So we've seen his eyesight improve. We've seen his smelling improve. Let's see if we can keep an eye out for his hearing. So now we're at the point where Nynaeve does her first strike of lightning.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And there is that same separation where there's one lightning strike, and then there's a bit of description about Lan, getting them started moving. He leads them forward, but he gets them all moving, so there's a bit of a gap. Yeah. And then at their first step, another strike sliced open the blackness, and then lightning came like hail, so the night flickered. So you're going from strike, wait, to strike, 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 strike. And so I think that first strike is definitely Nynaeve, and I think this is more evidence for it.
Sticking with it.
It kind of sounds like that first lightning strike was a big one, too.
Oh, yeah.
Are we going to put these two episodes together, or...?
I might keep them separate.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. They're long enough that I think we might separate them. I'll probably separate them.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, still makes sense. Sticking with it.
Yeah, no, I'm still...
Nynaeve was definitely did that.
I mean,
first
they
one.
do go together, but yeah.
Yeah.
I like that theory.
Basically, Lan's like, oh, okay, time to run.
I did want to point out something a little before that, where I guess we were talking about this in the last episode, but where Moiraine says Nynaeve has not returned. I feel that young woman has done something foolish. Lan spun on his heel as if to return the way they had come, but a single whip-crack word from Moiraine halted him. No. And she says, basically, some things are more important than others. You know that. The order did not move, and her voice hardened again. And she's like scolding him for going to run after Nynaeve. And it made me wonder if what's going on there in between their two heads. I remember we were talking about this a while.
I think that he obviously wants to go rescue Nynaeve because he cares for her.
Yeah.
And Moiraine is saying, no, you need to protect Perrin. He is more important.
And she even says, remember your oaths, which is almost like a kind of offensive thing to say. Or it's a jarring, maybe not offensive, but like Lan's not the kind of guy who forgets oaths.
It's like your mom saying your full name, saying like, oh, you so-and-so and so, like, get to your room, kind of thing.
Oh, man, Dragrin of the Seven Towers, clean up your mess and go to your room.
Stop chasing girls and do your homework.
Exactly. He is in love with Nynaeve, and he's letting that cloud his thoughts.
He's certainly at least really into her.
Yeah, and he's willing to almost disobey Moiraine for the first time since she's bonded him as a warder.
Yeah. The next thing I have is when Nynaeve notices Perrin's eyes. I don't know if you guys have anything in between. That's like 2 pages or something.
I like the Egwene reuniting with Bela.
Oh.
Bela!
And of course she jumps right on.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
The ultimate warhorse.
They're looking for Rand and Matt, and they're like, well, we don't know.
Yeah. And let us not forget that Bela is the actual main character of this story, so...
Of course, yeah. No, it's important to see that
Yeah.
she's overcoming obstacles by escaping and helping the main cast get out of the camp.
Yeah.
Helping the side characters.
Helping some. Yeah. It's important development for Bela, really.
It's world building.
We get another sentence here where he says he still thought he could smell Byar on it, which we assume he actually is smelling Byar.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
I think so, yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Especially if it's twice, he definitely is.
Oh, yeah. He's bringing that up for emphasis. Do you get anything out of this one day again that he gets from Dapple?
I just interpreted that as Dapple saying, like, we're going to see each other again. Like, I'll see you again.
I thought it might be that he's talking about fighting in the last battle.
Oh, maybe.
Or Dumai's Wells.
Are we thinking that far ahead?
I am. I'm actually thinking that far ahead that one day again.
Well, I guess that is kind of the point, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that one day we will fight with you again. You know, if not before, certainly at the last battle.
Huh.
I like that.
Again, something that I never really thought of, yeah.
It is a really vague, I mean...
Sure,
Oh,
it could
yeah.
mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
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 But that's kind of how wolves talk.
I mean, that does happen quite a few times in this story, where vague things kind of seem to come together, so who knows?
Egwene and Nynaeve reunite, and they have a nice little chance to talk and catch up. Those two, you know.
And hug each other. They really
Yeah.
care about each other
They
throughout
do.
the series.
Yeah.
I mean, they all do, but I think they have especially close relationship.
Even if at times a little contentious when Egwene gets elevated over Nynaeve.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like rebalancing of power that has to go on there.
Sure.
Um,
And, I think to some degree that's Nynaeve having to accept Egwene is now an adult and not a child.
sure. Or her,
You know.
or her apprentice.
Yeah.
And she goes through that with all the characters, where she has to accept that like she can't spank their bottoms anymore.
Only lands.
But only if he tells her to, because apparently in the bedroom he says what goes.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's the whole. The sea folk.
I thought it was just in the relationship. I mean,
No, in public she gets to say what happens. In private, he gets to say what happens.
that's filthy.
It's really dirty.
Oh my.
I love it.
The Shan Shan have dirty, dirty minds. But that's how they deal with the fact that in public, they are very close. Sorry, not the Shan Shan, the Sea Folk.
Right.
The Sea Folk are extremely strict about rank.
Yeah.
So that means whoever has the higher rank in public, in order to even that out in a relationship, in private, the other person has total control. And since Aes Sedai are the more powerful partner, and she gets to say what happens in public, Lan gets to basically say what happens in private. And she's not too unhappy with that.
I don't think so.
No.
They're talking about looking for the boys in Camelin.
Yeah, which is actually sort of supports, I think in the last chapter I was talking about how she was debating over continuing to Camelin to help the boys she wasn't sure were there, or going to help Perrin.
Yeah.
And she sort of debated over that for a little while. And so this is confirmation that she does think the boys are in Camelin.
And now they know who, likely. Which boys.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's process of elimination. We know it's not Perrin.
Right. And then Nynaeve tells Perrin to like take off his shirt so that she can treat his wounds.
They give Elaine some like basic, Nynaeve gives her a little bit of ointment, and then turns to Perrin and says, "All right, let me help you. I heard one of the Whitecloaks took a dislike to you." So that's what one of the things that Egwene must have been whispering to her.
Oh yeah, we see how beat up Perrin is.
And this is the first sort of I don't want to call it tough guy syndrome, but we see a lot of these characters who don't even realize how badly they're hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Yeah.
it's them trying to be tough. I think it's maybe a mix of adrenaline and
That's what I was going to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
And them actually being tough.
When you're in the middle of a scary situation and you get all cut up, like, you don't worry about it until later. You don't even really, like, you get cut, but it's a different sort of feeling.
Yeah. It doesn't really register at the moment.
Yeah.
But he's had bruises overlaid on bruises, overlaid on bruises.
That's true.
This isn't an in the moment type thing. This is days of abuse.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess, like, at this moment anyway, he's feeling the adrenaline, so...
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That
Yeah.
he's being rescued, so he's probably flying on cloud 9.
Plus, he's probably, like, excited to reunite with, not exactly, like, his friends that he started out with, but at least some of them.
At least Nynaeve, and I mean, he must be really excited to be rescued.
Oh,
Yeah, just to get the hell out of there, sure. And I think this might be the first time we see Nynaeve. I have this here that she definitely channels in this scene when she talks about the ointment that she's going to give to Perrin, and we see as her fingers gently rub the mixture in, the heat and cold vanished, taking the pain with them. The burn splotches faded to brown, and the brown and yellow paled, some disappearing altogether. Experimentally, he took a deep breath. There is barely a twinge.
Even before that, there's one sentence where he says it was hot and cold at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
making him
Yeah.
shiver while he broke into a sweat.
Oh,
but
I
he
didn't
did
even
not
think of that.
protest.
But yeah, that's relevant too.
The shiver is entirely...
She's channeling while
It's-
she's rubbing in the medicine.
It's the channeling, healing shiver that...
And no medicine takes away, days of beating, bruises from days of being beaten in moments like that.
Right.
Also, Moiraine is standing like right there.
Oh, she
So-
totally watches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, yeah, I know what's going on here.
I mean, she must see, A, the glow surround Nynaeve,
Yeah.
B, the weaves explode out of her, because she does that
Yeah.
instinctually. I mean, that right there was like Moiraine probably's jaw dropped.
Yeah, she can probably tell, like, just how skilled she is by just standing there watching.
And she knows how powerful she has the potential to be just by standing near her.
Yeah, and especially for somebody that's completely untrained.
Yeah.
Moiraine doesn't say anything about it, though.
No, she doesn't. Well, that's Moiraine being supremely in control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she does catch the yellow eyes.
Uh-huh.
So this, I guess that we should bring that up. While Nynaeve, she does the full healing, and after she heals him, she notices the yellow eyes. So
Yeah, then she like grabs him by the face and she's like, "What's wrong with your..."
Yeah.
what's wrong with your eyes?
Yeah.
And Moiraine immediately goes, yellow? Like, out of all the healing, all the craziness that's just happened, Moiraine hasn't talked until she says yellow?
Is it Moiraine that
Yeah.
says something first?
Is it jaundice? No, it's not jaundice.
That's the same way I interpreted yellow eye fever. When Nynaeve refers to, she says, "I don't understand, if it was yellow eye fever, you wouldn't be able to stand, but you don't have any fever, and the whites of your eyes aren't yellow, just the irises."
Yeah.
And I thought of it as like, that's like kidney disease.
I thought it was sort of like a flu that maybe shut down your kidneys, but I could
could
totally
be-
see, yeah.
I mean, that's why your eyes.
That's kind of interesting, too. Like, I'm wondering how fast his eyes changed.
Yeah.
Like, did it just happen like that? Or
I'm not sure when the
did it
first
happen
moment
over
is.
a couple days? Or...
My assumption, so I mean, this is going back to when he was being captured by the Whitecloaks, but
Right. So how long was that? Like, a couple days, I guess.
he was able to see in the dark that night. And I assume that, like, the adrenaline of being pursued by the Whitecloaks may have caused the change. That it may have
Yeah.
happened, like, even before he was captured by the Whitecloaks.
Yeah. I mean, like, just because he can see in the dark doesn't preclude that his eyes had turned to yellow yet.
Yeah. And in a moment here, we see Lan talking about how Perrin had a guide. And he refers to that as like, seems like a pretty important thing. I wonder if just meeting Elias and sort of being guided through his first interactions with the wolves, if that was kind of the catalyst for the full change, like all the parts of it, you know? I don't know. It's just another clue to when his eyes might have started changing.
Well, that could be a whole like Taverin thing too.
This is Lan and Perrin are looking at each other in the eyes, and for a long moment they simply stared at one another. The hard planes of the warder's face were unreadable, but in his eyes Perrin thought he saw something. Sympathy? Curiosity? Both? "You know," he said out loud, and Lan nodded. "I know some, not all. Did it come to you, or did you meet a guide, an intermediary?" And that has to be Lan recognizing, because, I think we've established before that Lan and Elias were warders together, and Elias trained Lan. And so Lan would obviously be really intimately familiar with the fact that Elias's eyes change color.
Yeah. And Lan does actually go into a bit of a speech here about it.
Yeah. This is where we find out that he actually knew him, because Perrin says his name was Elias Manchira, and Lan drew a deep breath, and Perrin looked at him sharply. "You know him?" "I knew him. He taught me much about the Blight and about this." Lan touched his sword hilt. "He was a warder before what happened. The Red Aja ... He glanced to where Moiraine was lying before the fire. Right there is how we know that, like, Lan is the most skilled swordsman in the land, and Elias was his teacher, which is pretty impressive.
Or at least taught him something of what he knows, yeah.
Right, was one of his teachers.
Yeah.
When we've been talking about how Lan and Elias know each other, the reason we know that is because of this little paragraph right here, of the fact that Lan says he was a warder, he taught me about the blade, and about the Blight, apparently.
Yeah.
Which actually, I wonder, was Elias a borderman?
Elias is definitely older than Lan.
Yeah, but was he from the Borderlands? Are we going to Google that?
I'm going to Google it.
All right. John, Mike, were you going to say something?
Yes, I was going to say, this sentence kind of interested me. At Shadar Logoth, Lan had been sure and strong, and when he was facing Fades and Trollocs. But he was not afraid now. Perrin was convinced of that. But he was wary. And, like, I'm just picturing, like, Lan being kind of standing there, like, being kind of unsure what to say. He's like,
Well, and he doesn't want to criticize Aes Sedai. Warders are very hesitant to criticize any Aes Sedai, but he wants to criticize the Red Aja.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Who wouldn't?
No, well, they're terrible.
Sort of interjection, the Wheel of Time wiki says Elias is Taran. But I think he's just significantly older than Lan.
Taran?
Yeah.
From Taran Ferry?
From Tyr. Or Tyran? I forget. I'm not sure how you say that.
I wonder how he learned about the Blight.
Well, he was a warder. I don't know. Read more about his life or whatever. See what is known.
Oh, this is something I never really noticed. Perrin actually refers to Dapple by name.
Oh, yeah.
Elias verbally tells them the name of the wolves.
Yeah, but not to Lan.
No.
Like, Lan wouldn't know that.
Oh, yeah, well, he definitely slips. He's like, "But Dapple," and then he, like, stops talking. Yeah. I don't know.
He's like, I've said too much.
Yeah, I think Lan knows that he's able to talk to the wolves. He sees the golden eyes. He's like, "I left you, 2 weeks ago when you didn't have golden eyes, and now you do?" Like, something, and I have my old mentor has golden eyes and talks to wolves, and I know something about that. Like,
yeah.
I want to point this out on seeing as I'm reading about Elias. Some people think that Elias is whatever our universe parallel is the name Elijah, or the prophet who would prepare the way before the coming of the Lord of the two rivers.
Oh, yeah. Sure, I can see that.
Yeah, it's a good one. Elijah, Elias. And I also, from what I'm seeing of reading the last minute, this is literally all we know about Elias's and Lan's relationship. We know that Elias trained Lan in becoming a warder.
Right.
Not in, yeah.
Not in the
So at the
Borderlands.
White Tower.
Yes.
But that's all. That's really all the information that there seems to be.
It is funny that he says that he taught me about the Blight, because I assume most of what he learned about the Blight was from the
Personal experience.
personal experience and the folks, the 5 Malkieri warriors who raised him.
Yeah.
Because they were fighting in the Blight.
Maybe he didn't have as much personal experience until later. I don't really...
I guess, yeah. Also, fun fact. Before I started listening to this podcast, I always thought Elias's name was Elyas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's highly embarrassing. So, yeah.
Don't be. We do this all the time with the pronunciations.
When I heard Elias, I was like, oh, God.
We're mostly with the audiobooks, and the audiobooks are not necessarily correct in every situation.
Yeah.
No.
Somebody hit me up on Facebook the other day, and I was talking to her about that for a second and just telling her, like, no, like, just because we've agreed on what a pronunciation is doesn't mean it's the correct one. And,
Nope.
we just sort of accept that there is no correct one, but Seth and I just like to have a standard if we're going to talk about it. We might as well be pronouncing it one way,
Yeah.
and not varying.
Everybody else is shepherders.
Yeah.
Well, and I figure if we stick with the audiobooks, everyone who's listened to the audiobooks will know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, even if you say, like, one, kind of obscure name from the books, like, people will kind of be able to pick up on it.
We've yet to get into a lot of that, but it's coming.
True. Yeah.
The next thing I see is this great speech by Lan, and I know you said you wanted to read some of it. I'm looking at not Perrin. Patrick.
God.
I'll just start here. What of the chance involved, blacksmith? Sometimes the pattern has a randomness to it, to our eyes, at least. But what chance that you should meet a man who could guide you in this thing,
Taviran?
and you one who could follow the guiding? The pattern is forming a great web, what some call the lace of ages, and you lads are central to it. I don't think there is much chance left in our lives now. Have you been chosen out then? And if so, by the light or by the shadow? And then the next thing I have started is rock hard stubborn, the warder mused. Maybe stubborn enough to save yourself in the end. And that's like, oh man, that's a foreshadowing. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, I think the stubbornness definitely goes in hand with his ability in the world of dreams.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Remember the times we live in, blacksmith. Remember what Moiraine said I told you. In these times, many things are dissolving and breaking apart. Old barriers weaken, old walls crumble. The barriers between what is and what was, between what is and what will be. His voice turned grim. The walls of the Dark One's prison. This may be the end of an age.
Maybe the end of an age?
But, well, they don't quite know yet,
maybe.
but yeah, there's just so much going on here. And this may, by the way, be the most we ever see Lan say ever, like in a block.
Yeah.
It's
Like-
a long
what I was saying.
paragraph.
Yeah, it's like 2 paragraphs that he talks for.
Big spiel that he goes on about, and it's really cool to see him say this much.
Yeah. I stopped there. The next sentence is, we may see a new age born before we die, or perhaps it is the end of ages, the end of time itself, the end of the world. Suddenly he grinned, but his grin was as dark as a scowl. His eyes sparkled merrily, laughing at the foot of the gallows. But that's not for us to worry about, huh, blacksmith? We'll fight the shadow as long as we have breath, and if it overruns us, we'll go under biting and clawing. You 2 rivers folk are too stubborn to surrender.
That reminds me of the Aiel saying.
Into the shadow with teeth bared on the last day. I'm doing it wrong, but yeah, there's some parallels in
Spitting
there.
into the eye of the Dark One.
Yeah.
Oh man, this
Good
whole chapter
stuff.
just
That was
ends
good
with,
stuff.
and it just keeps going with Lan and Perrin talking back and forth.
And Lan points out that they have to hurry now to like go find the other boys, but we had better find your
Yeah.
friends soon. And Perrin
We
says,
have
"What do
to
you
find
mean?"
them, Perrin said. And the warder gave a grunt of a laugh.
Oh man, I like this. Perhaps the walls have weakened enough for the Dark One himself to touch events. Not with a free hand, or we'd be done already, but maybe tiny shiftings in the threads, a chance turning of one corner instead of another, a chance meeting, a chance word, or what seems like chance. and they could be so far under the shadow, not even Moiraine could bring them back. It kind of reminds me of the, it's like anti-Taviran.
Yeah. And at the beginning of that paragraph, I really liked, they have no Aes Sedai touching the true source to protect them, but Lan maybe doesn't realize that Rand is touching the true source.
Oh,
and that may be protecting them.
Yeah, good point.
Is something maybe a little better than an Aes Sedai. But can she find them in time? If the Dark One is strong enough to take a hand himself, time is running out. You pray we find them in Caemlyn, Blacksmith, or we may all be lost.
Of course they do find them in Caemlyn.
Yeah. And
Of
with
course, yeah.
Lan's speech in mind there, I kind of wanted to point out that the next chapter is called Weaving of the Web. Chapter 39, and the symbol is the lion of Andor.
I like how much wisdom Lan has picked up here. You don't see him say it very often, but he pays attention.
These 2 chapters were rich in... there was a lot of stuff happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Lan knows what's going on.
Yeah. He just doesn't say it much.
Yeah, he doesn't let on much, but yeah.
My favorite scene is when Egwene is the Amyrlin seat, and she goes and tracks down Marillilla, and she has Lan as her warder. And Lan is basically training on his own, and he's going through all the different movements. And there's this big, long conversation between Marillilla and Egwene while Lan is going through his paces and with the sword. And at the end of it, she's like, so do you understand what's going on? And he's like, and he summarizes every exact detail of the entire situation down to like things that she thought she was being subtle about. And she's like, oh, I guess he'll be okay.
Okay.
It's like, he knows everything that's going on. He has 100%.
I guess you know what you're doing.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's with Moiraine, and he is just as clued in as she is to everything that's going on. He just doesn't talk about it.
This blood orange wheat beer is pretty good.
Yeah, after we put down the Freem, we started drinking a Full Sail blood orange wheat ale, which has gone down pretty easy.
Nice summery beer.
But yeah, I think we're just about done. Do you have anything else you want to put on?
I think, yeah. I was going to go grab another beer, so...
Cool. Yeah, I think you're right.
We know how you got into the podcast, and so now we want to know how you got into the Wheel of Time.
Well, I will tell you how I got into the Wheel of Time. I can actually tell you exactly the month and the year that I got into it, because I was actually on a survival course, and one of my friends there was reading The Fires of Heaven at the time, and this was 2003. To be honest, I just like the name of the book. I was like, Fires of Heaven? That sounds like a really cool book. And
it is a good title.
So at that point, when I got home from that course, I just, looked up what series that was. And, of course, from there, I realized it was the Wheel of Time and started reading it. And basically, I pretty much read every book as they came out by that point.
So what was out in 2003? What was the newest book at that time?
I don't actually remember. I remember the book that I saw was Fires of Heaven.
Well, you know what? Wikipedia is about to tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, John, out of curiosity, how old are you?
30.
30. Okay. Otherwise, we're all pretty much the same
So
age.
I was 16 at the time when I first heard about the series.
Gotcha.
That's an important detail, is how old were you at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, I was 16.
I feel like that's about the time we all found it. I may have been like 15 or something like that.
That's like, around 2003, probably 2004-ish. I'm not sure exactly, but that's around the time that I refound the series, and I think it's when I was able to really appreciate it, because I found it when I was a little kid and tried reading it, but I think it was just a little much.
And of course, I was pretty young, like the first time I read it, and I haven't reread it yet, and I'm in the process of doing so. And that's how I found the podcast. So it's really cool for me to follow along with what's going on with the podcast, and it's like reading it all over again for the first time, or like kind of like rediscovering an old friend, and it's great.
Yeah, these people are my friends in these books.
Yeah.
They've been with me longer than anyone in my actual real life. So it looks like Crossroads of Twilight had just come out when you started the series.
Yeah, you know what? I think that was actually the first book that I actually bought.
Yeah, it's probably the brand new one. Because that came out in January 2003.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were just at the end of Jordan's run.
Yeah.
And you must have been then just devastated when you heard he died.
I know, yeah, because I had started reading it, and then I'm like, oh no. Of course, everybody that's read it was probably like, oh no, but yeah.
What year did Jordan die? Was it 6?
That sounds right.
Oh man.
I want to say it was 2006, but I'm not sure.
Well, just looking at the books, Knife of Dreams came out in 2005, and then Gathering Storm was 2009. And so so that's a 4-year gap, but I want to say that he died closer to the beginning of the gap, simply because it took him a couple of years to find somebody.
Like 2009-ish, I guess.
That's when the new book came
Gathering
out.
Storm
So 2006
came out in
seems right.
2009?
Yeah.
I'm just surprised. I must have not read it because I don't think I read any of the Sanderson books until after I moved to Portland.
Yeah, he died in 2007. Actually, oh my god. He died September 16th, 2007, which is 2 days from now.
Huh. It'll be 8 years? Wow. Time flies.
Hey, as a total aside, I was thinking of this while we were talking earlier. I found this is kind of a question for John Michael. I found this Facebook page I ran into that's just called Wheel of Time Reread. And is it inappropriate for me to post there and just plug the podcast? Is that like a shitty thing to do to someone's page? I wanted to do it, and then I was like, that seems sort of rude. I don't know. Is it? What do you think?
No, I mean, I would say it kind of depends how you do it, I guess.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because you could be a total ass about it and be like, oh, okay, oh, look, this is a fellow Wheel of Time page. Come look at my page.
Here's
awesome.
A platform for me.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Or you could say like, oh, for any Wheel of Time fans that are rereading, we have a podcast that's kind of
specifically for, yeah.
So if you guys want to check it out, feel free.
I feel like, that is so on topic that you're not being an asshole by posting there.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm just
if you're going into a health food forum and posting about your fantasy Wheel of Time podcast, they may not appreciate it. Yeah. But on a Wheel of Time reread post, I feel like we can absolutely be like, hey, you might also want to check us out.
The majority of the posts on the page were just like people saying, I just finished my first reread, or I just started my reread, or I found this page and consider it, and I'm rereading the series for the first time. And it's just like people saying that essentially, or I'm on this book or whatever. And I was thinking of just being like, hey,
people that
us
are
too.
Obviously interested in the series. So
yeah. And it's like it's a really nice companion for someone going back through.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do is I see a lot of posts. I finished the series. What do I do now? My response is
read it again.
Step 1,
listen
read it
to
again.
This podcast.
Step 2, listen to this podcast. Yeah.
Where did I see? Yeah, I saw you write that somewhere.
I think it was on Reddit.
Probably.
Yeah. I do most of my although I've been doing more Twitter. We've been getting a fair amount of Twitter activity the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
I never check the Twitter.
No. But I don't know Twitter that well, so I'm kind of learning it as I go. But I'm getting just a good number of positive comments and retweets and favorites and stuff like that. I don't really know what good numbers are, but
I've been trying to keep up with the Facebook more. I noticed that you can get like I don't know if it does anything for you, but Facebook kind of sets your goal to a 15-minute response time, and we're averaging 22 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
As like someone sends us a message, and usually we get back to them. So I was like, if I could check this like one more time a day, I could probably get the response time down.
I liked your responses, by the way.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing the messages. I've been leaving that up to you guys. So
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for running the rest of the page. All I'm doing is responding to messages.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm only doing everything, like literally everything else.
It's amazing. I honestly sometimes I check in. I'm like, oh man, he's done like 2 already. I haven't, because you're putting out 1 a day until we catch up.
Right.
And a lot of people see that. When you look at the Facebook page, it shows you like how your visibility and how many people have viewed and it's a lot of people that are seeing these posts.
And I put the hashtags too, like Wheel of Time and WOT. So people that are actually like searching for those hashtags, that will come up for them. If there is anybody actually searching those hashtags, but that's frankly out of our control.
Yeah, I mean, like Jonathan found us through just a Wheel of Time search. He was saying he just searched on iTunes or whatever
on Instagram.
Yeah, and then just and found us. So, there's not a whole lot of Wheel of Time content out there. So people who are searching for it, I think, are going to find us.
Yeah, there's not that much to find.
Yeah,
and considering how much content we've produced, it's a significant amount of the content out there is what we've made.
Yeah. You could go a whole 24 hours just listening to us talk.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, I feel really bad for you, but we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and in some ways that's not helpful at all.
Right. It's encouraging, but it doesn't.
We want to know what we're doing wrong.
It's absolutely helpful because it makes me feel wonderful and keeps me coming back to the podcast and doing it on a regular basis. So
people are actually listening to it and enjoying it.
I put way more work into it than I would if there was like 5 listeners. I do want to know what people want out of the podcast.
I was thinking about doing just what John was just suggesting recently, because I already have one, what I'm calling sideline episodes in the works for like an episode on the Power and an episode on the Heroes and the Horn. I thought it would be fun to do posts on the social media and on the social media accounts and just ask, like, what do you think would be a good episode? Because Seth and I sat down and brainstormed one night and came up with like half a dozen of what I think are good sounding, but like, what if a significant amount of our listeners all would love to hear this thing that we never even thought of? Yeah, and then we could make that content, and like, how validating will that be for them?
And you could also you could also put the list out as just the post out as a list. Yeah. So just like, which of these 6 ideas do you want us to start with?
Yeah.
Right.
And get a popularity contest going on those.
Yeah.
Should have the Horn episode ready soon. I don't know if you want to save it, or we can record it whenever, but I don't know if you want to save it for like when we do the Hunt for the Horn. That's pretty soon.
Yeah, we're not that far away.
We might as well, yeah. Maybe we should do the episode on the Power first, like release that one first. I don't know. That's a ton of stuff we can talk about another time.
I'm having a lot of trouble keeping up with all the social media between Instagram and Facebook, and we were getting a bunch of like direct messages on Patreon and getting a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's just, I honestly spend so much of my day just opening up web pages and like
all these different pages. Yeah,
I just miss the days when I could just get emails.
Get used to it.
That another thing that I wanted to bring up tonight. You just made me think of it. I kind of want to get on the Patreon page and just screw around with it and see what I could do with it. Because now I'm linking people to the Patreon page constantly. So like, we haven't even looked at it twice. I don't feel like as far as what's written. Yeah,
6 months ago, whenever we decided to put it up. That 6 months is not accurate. 3 months ago, and I haven't honestly looked at the front page since. I put work into it.
Yeah.
That one time.
I wish I had more time. That honestly is the number one thing that is preventing me from putting more effort into this podcast, is because I work all day, I come home, and honestly, the number one thing I need to be doing is editing.
Yeah.
And to get podcasts out there. And so I do a lot of the social media at work, and I have a girlfriend, and I occasionally have a life. So, and I have a dog that needs to be walked on a regular basis, and
Yeah, I was talking about, well, we were both talking about that earlier. It's just, if I could use all the time that I wasn't working also to work on the podcast, I'd be getting a lot more done. But man, I finished a day of work and I'm just like, you know what? I am going to have a drink and do nothing for the next 3 hours and then go
feeling.
to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, you have 2 beers and you're like, well, now I'm definitely not doing anything.
Yeah.
So...
Actually, it's funny. When I have 2 beers, I get like motivated to do something.
Man, I wish that was me.
It's like, yeah, okay, I've had 2 beers now. I'm ready. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do it. Yes.
that's how I start most editing sessions. is with
Really?
2 beers.
Right?
I gotta get my shit together and start drinking more.
No, actually, honestly, I record a little tipsy, but I mostly edit sober.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It shows.
Oh, hey.
Hey, what?
I was just curious. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the Wheel of Time and sort of
Oh, yeah.
your experience with it? And, you talked about like when you started reading it, what year, how old you were, but,
Should have enough there to work with.
you don't want to tell me how it affected your life? And
What, you want me to just give you my whole life story? Come on. I can't do that, no. Okay, well, I could, but no.
I'm sure I can cut it down to a 3-minute story. Don't worry. Just go.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Timber found his favorite toy.
All right. Let me take that squeaky toy away from Timber.
Well, I'm going to try to segue here into chapter 38.
We're going to tangent into the actual chapter now.
Yeah.
Before we do that.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Whatever. I got time. It's fine.
Shall we talk about the beer we've been drinking?
Oh, yeah. You have the label in front of you. It's
So it's a local brewery. It's Freem. They do a great job. They produce some amazing beers.
Yeah.
And this is their summer pale. And honestly, this is one of my favorites.
That was really nice beer. We just split a bottle. That was given to us as a gift from Seth's favorite bartender, who just started reading The Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I converted my favorite bartender. He had read Game of Thrones. He'd read Tolkien. He'd read pretty much, all the big fantasy stuff. And I was like, oh, so you've read Wheel of Time? He's like, what's that? So he is currently holding my first 3 books, and he's in 2 weeks he's gone through like book 1 and 2.
Yeah, reckon it. That's like 1,600 pages.
So anyway, so I go there and I drink and I talk about the Wheel of Time to the bartender, and he gave me a beer. So we just drank that.
One day, all these beers that we hype will pay us to make this podcast.
No, they won't.
Yeah. Also, people should probably know that, all that money that they're pouring in through the Patreon account is pretty much just going to beer.
I mean, it all goes into the big slush fund, and
Yeah.
no. I mean, honestly,
It goes into the production.
exactly. No, honestly, the money you're putting in, for the most part, we put back into the podcast. It's either gone into hosting fees,
Yeah, that's
buying some basic furniture to set up this basement. I mean, like
a couple $100 so far.
Yeah.
And when you consider the money that we put into starting this, it doesn't really pay it back yet. But
Yeah, I think
we're
we
getting
just,
there. We're
just
getting there.
about broken even right now,
Which is not bad.
which is awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?